y'all, it's Nat. So we're trying a different angle this time because the last video I filmed, my back was killing me by the end of it, and I just need something that's gonna help me relax a little bit more into the beanbag chair. Though I'm kind of like twisting towards the camera, so I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna talk about my anti-buzzwords as promised in my last video. So these are the things that, like, if they're pitched to me in a book, it doesn't necessarily turn me off the book completely, but I'm gonna need something else to kind of draw me in. Last time I tried to sort these things into categories, and I don't really feel like doing that this time. So we're just gonna go down a list that I made randomly. Let's get into it. Okay, so first we have the Princess and the Guard romance trope. I don't know what it is about this trope. I have never cared for it. And if it's part of a love triangle, I'm rooting for the other person. I don't care about the guard. I don't know why. I have no idea why I don't like it. Literally so many people love this trope, and I can't think of a single time it's made me feel literally anything. I just find it boring for some reason. I don't have a reason. I just don't get it. So sorry to people who love this trope, but yeah, it's not for me. So the reason that I said in my last video that not all retellings are an automatic buzzword for me is because Romeo and Juliet retellings are not an automatic buzzword for me. If somebody I trust recommends me a Romeo and Juliet retelling, I will give it a chance, but it is just not something that I am drawn to. I have read one work by Shakespeare that I have enjoyed, and if you are familiar with his works, you can probably guess by the name of my channel. If you're not, it's Macbeth. I love Macbeth. And my channel name is a reference to the quote, "By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes." So anyways, I just don't love the whole family rivalry being the reason that they can't be together. I will say, like, some retellings do make it more interesting. Like, I didn't love These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, but something that I did actually enjoy about the Roma and Juliet dynamic was that it wasn't just because of their family rivalries that they, like, had trouble trusting each other. Like, there was way more to it. I don't want to spoil anything, but they had many reasons that they felt like they couldn't trust each other and had to work through in order to work together. I liked that aspect of it. So even though that book wasn't my favorite, I will say that Chloe Gong got me more invested in the dynamic between Roma and Juliet than Shakespeare did in the original source material. So I hope that I explained all of that well. I guess it comes down to, I would rather the cause for friction in the relationship be their fault than their family's fault. I don't know. Or anybody else. Like, I'd rather the friction come from within, not from without, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this next one is pretty, like, romance specific. I don't love in a romance when a wedding or the planning of a wedding is, like, a big part of the story. I have nothing against weddings themselves. Like, I'm fine with a wedding in, like, the epilogue or whatever, or I don't know, like, just a short little thing. But for most of the story, I'm not interested. I'm not really interested in the idea of planning a wedding in my own life. I don't like the idea of being the center of attention in that way, and I certainly don't want to go through all the trouble to plan it if I don't want to do it, you know? I think it was the third book in the Written in the Stars trilogy by Alexandra Bellafleur. I think one of the main characters was a wedding planner, and so a huge part of that story just revolved around planning a wedding, and I did not, like, I don't want to say I didn't care, because it was planning a wedding for a couple that I liked from one of the previous books, but I didn't enjoy it, you know? It's just not for me, and yeah, that's, I guess, all I have to say about it. Okay, so the next one is Dark Academia. This is one of those things where it's like, I mean, sure, I understand the appeal of it. It's not like I dislike it. I have some dark academia books on my TBR, but it's not a buzzword for me the way that it is for a lot of the online bookish community, I feel like. So yeah, I'm not rushing to read every single dark academia book. I have a select few that I'm interested in. For example, Babel. I mean, it's taken me forever to finally read it, but I will be reading it in May, by the way. It's just, I cannot read this book without annotating it, and my annotation supplies were lost in the shuffle from my move for most of last year up until maybe like a month ago. So yeah, I can't read that book without annotating it, and I didn't have my annotating supplies with me to do it. So that's why I still haven't gotten to it, but it is on the TBR for May. But that one like has the appeal of like linguistics being an important part of the story, right? So it's, you know, it's more than just the dark academia of it all. Okay, so vampires. This is kind of the same deal as dark academia. There are plenty of vampire books on my TBR. It's not something that I'm necessarily, like, I understand the appeal of it, right? Like the gray morality that can come from immortality. That was a rhyme I did not anticipate. What was I saying? I understand the appeal of vampires, but I feel like I'm burnt out on it. Like, I grew up with a lot of vampire media, and honestly, in execution, it can be very hit or miss for me. I don't feel like I have enough vampire media that I love so deeply for vampires to be an automatic buzzword for me. I will say there is an upcoming vampire book that I am looking forward to. It's called, I think it's This Ravenous Fate by Haley Denning. I have been following Haley on Twitter and Instagram. I found her on Twitter though, but I'm not on Twitter anymore. Anyways, I've been following her for years. Literally every single thing that she has pitched has sounded really interesting to me. So I feel like, honestly, at this point, I haven't even read a book by her yet, and she's already an auto-buy author, just on premise alone, right? So this is her debut coming out, I think in August. Did I say that yet? I don't know. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's sapphic. So yeah. Another thing I feel like I've been pretty burnt out on is like fae stories. Again, not to say that these books aren't still making my TBR. I recently read Faebound and enjoyed that. I loved the world building. I enjoyed the sibling dynamics and some of the other character dynamics that were going on. I wouldn't say it's like a new all-time fave, but I enjoyed it. I will be continuing on with the series. I am looking forward to the second book. But yeah, I feel like I'm a lot more selective about fae related books these days. Honestly, basically what I'm trying to say is I'm tired of like SJM, JLA brand fae. It's been too much of that. I would prefer different takes on fae. I'm enjoying like stuff that's more inspired by Celtic fair folk and just other different types of folklore that we haven't seen represented as much in this, I guess, fantasy subgenre. Okay, so I'm coming for a classic romance trope next. The only one bed trope. I'm a little, it's not a favorite for me. It's interesting because this trope for me is so tied to fan fiction in the same way that fake dating is so tied to fan fiction for me. Like, that's where most of my like formative exposure to these tropes has been. And with fake dating, I can never get enough of it. I love it forever. With the only one bed trope, it doesn't really leave much of an impression on me anymore. And I don't hate it. Like, it's not going to turn me off of a book again, especially if there's other things about the book that I'm really interested in. It's just not something that I will look forward to. I understand the appeal of it, like the whole forced proximity of it all. I love forced proximity, but I tend to prefer more long-term forced proximity. like to really sit in the tension and the slow burn, whereas the only one bed trope tends to be more like, it tends to be like a single beat of a larger story, and it tends to be like the turning point in the relationship. And I don't want to say it's formulaic, because that's not, like, formulas aren't a bad thing, but I think it's just a formula that again, it doesn't leave an impression on me anymore, or at least it rarely does, I should say. I don't like to speak in absolutes. So I feel like sometimes with videos like these, I tend to talk myself around in circles, because I don't want to say it's something I never enjoy, but it's something I rarely enjoy. How's that? The last of my anti-buzzwords are sports romances. I'm not against them, like, on principle. I just, like, they very rarely interest me. I think I have a couple, like, queer sports romances on my TBR, but they're nowhere near the top of my TBR. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the only ones I would ever be interested in are, like, swimming or dance related ones, because I grew up doing those things and I love those things, and I grew up in those worlds. Whereas, like, I don't know, if it's like a soccer romance, then, I mean, I did one season of soccer. You know, again, that's not a world that I know. And I feel like, for me at least, having that extra context would kind of round out the experience, and I think that's why I'm not as drawn to them. But I'm sure a lot of people enjoy sports romances, even for sports that they're not really into. But for me, I'd have to be, like, actually interested in the sport. If any of y'all have some swimming or dance related romance recommendations for me, especially if they're queer, let me know. All right, so those are all the anti-buzzwords that I could think of this time around. Let me know down in the comments what some of your anti-buzzwords are. They could be things that completely turn you off of a book, maybe, or you might just need a little extra convincing if you see them in a pitch. I'd love to discuss more with y'all down in the comments. But that's it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more from me, make sure to click that subscribe button as well. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!